Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing for February 12th, 2024. Just a few reminders. If you have an electronic or cell phone device, if you could turn it off or put it on silent, it would be appreciated so it doesn't disrupt the meeting. Also, just a few reminders. If you're speaking tonight on a petition, please come to the lectern and just state your name and address for the record. And then also the meeting is held in person, also through virtual means as well, by Zoom. All right, going on. We're going to take one matter out of order here under new business. We have ZBA ZBA-2024-1, petition is a variance. The applicant is Landmark LLC, property located at 21 Christmas Ave. Landmark LLC requests to subdivide the existing lot into 3 lots and construct 3 single-family homes. The subject property is located in the traditional single-family TSF zoning district. The proposal requires variance approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals per section 5.1 for relief from the minimum lot area per dwelling unit, minimum frontage, maximum front yard setback, and maximum floor area ratio FAR requirements, and for any relief required in the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Chairman. I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to be taken out of turn. I know that's not often that you do that, so I just wanted to let you know that I truly appreciate that. I have another hearing proceeding in Tewksbury this evening. I ran into a conflict, so thank you very much. For the record, Matt Hammer, Lamplex Engineering and Surveying, 10 George Street, Lowell, Mass. We're here this evening for a subdivision of 3 parcels located at 21 Christmas Ave, and the parcel is 16,000 square feet. I wanted to give you a little history on this parcel. We were before the planning board for site plan review for a veterans housing building prior to this meeting, of which that public hearing proceedings involve much of the abutters that are here this evening, and that project was ultimately denied, specifically for its neighborhood character for the neighborhood. The abutters were showing concern for a building that was going to not fit into the neighborhood, which is primarily consisting of single families and 2-family residential units, and that project was ultimately denied. It was appealed. It's currently in an appeal, and if we are successful this evening to be granted the variances, that we would withdraw that appeal, that project from the appeal, so that project no longer needs to go forward with that appeal process through the courts. So we're going to be proposing to subdivide the parcel into 3 individual lots. All of the houses will be of the same configuration. We've shifted the houses back into the lot, which is going to require an additional variance to the maximum setback for the front setback. And the primary reason for doing so is so that the cars can come back out onto Christmas Ave, face forward, and not be backing out into Christmas Ave in order to approach Christmas Ave, which, if everyone is familiar with that area, is a very busy area. There's a on-ramp to 495 directly across to the project driveways that are being proposed. And we just felt as though that was going to be a much safer way to exit out of the off the property being faced forward. So that's why we shifted the buildings back into the parcel. Each proposed lot will be 5,333 square feet. Each lot will have 53.33 lineal feet of frontage on lots 1 and 3. And lot 2 will have 53.34 lineal feet of frontage. But they're essentially all of the same in terms of the frontage. The frontage requirement is 70 lineal feet, so we're requesting the relief on the frontage requirement. And the lot size requirement is 7,000 square feet. And we're at 5,333 square feet for each of the lots. The maximum front yard setback is 20 feet, and we're proposing each of the 3 buildings to be 40 feet setback from the roadway. Additionally, the FAR is 0.35, and we're proposing 0.49 for each of for the houses on each of the lots. I'm going to show a rendering of the proposed single-family house, which is here. This is the front entranceway to the house. It's a more or less a colonial style home, and that's a rendering of the proposed dwelling. Each of the lots will have a driveway to accommodate 2 vehicles here and here, and then also a turnout area to straighten the vehicle back out into the roadway. Each lot will also have a small 10 by 10 deck on the rear, and each lot will fully comply with drainage mitigation. I know we got some comments from the engineering department, and all of those comments we are completely fine with, and we'll be working with this. If this project gets approved, we'll be working with the stormwater team to resolve all of those drainage questions. We have done soil testing on the property. We know where the groundwater is, and we know that the configuration of how this will be graded and the runoff will be mitigated through the drainage systems being proposed. At the hearing that we had with the planning board, I had mentioned that they were not happy or thought that the configuration of the proposed veterans housing was not indicative of how the neighborhood is set up with single-family and two-family dwellings. So we're now proposing this as single-family dwellings. I provided a handout which shows the GIS layout of each of the lots in the surrounding area, which are single family. And as you'll notice on that plan, that there's a wide variety of housing in the area. You can see by the plan, we're here, and you can see that there's a wide array of single-family housing in and around the area. So we feel as though that this single-family home would be wouldn't be detrimental to the neighborhood. It'll fall in line with what the neighborhood mainly consists of, which is single-family homes. We're also happy to provide to the board an approval signature from the neighbors, of which we were able to get 34 signatures from the surrounding neighborhood for the approval of this project to be single-family homes. And those are submitted for the record. We feel as though that this project is unique in the way that, normally, these size lots are in the neighborhood. These size lots are approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. But where this is a little bit different is we're proposing 3 lots. It's not just one lot left over from another lot that had a house on it and there was some land left over. We're proposing this as a mitigation to address the neighbors' concerns. We've been working with the neighbors closely throughout the entire process, and we're hoping that this project is unique enough to gain the support of the Zoning Board of Appeals to approve the lots that we're proposing and the variances associated with that. And I can take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. If you have nothing further, we'll open up the hearing to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? All right, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Sure.
Just step up to. However.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I figured since I spoke so much about not getting the VA in there, I figured I'd speak tonight. This setup will definitely fit in our neighborhood. I'm sorry, I'm Joanne Dolan, and 37 Jean Ave, Lowell, Mass.
Thank you.
Okay. It'll fit in our neighborhood. My home is a ranch. I'm on 6,000 square feet of acreage. I have a 60-foot frontage. My backyard is 20 by 60. My kids grew up there from when they were little to college. We had sandboxes and swing sets and all kinds of things, and they would play with their kids or friends, or even in college, they'd have them by and, do whatever in the backyard. So they enjoyed that. Let's see, what else? It's a nice neighborhood to raise families in. I figured the housing for families are sorely needed. My daughters just recently bought homes, and it was very hard for them to even get the homes. So I think that this will help supply homes for other people. So with that, my husband and I, who he wasn't able to make it tonight, hope that you approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Good evening, sir.
Hi, Jeff Thomas, 76 Bowden Street, co-chair of the neighborhood, South Lowell Neighborhood Group. The neighborhood is in agreement with this. They didn't like the veterans home, as this gentleman stated. There was a lot of revisions to plans and stuff, and the neighbors have agreed, even with the less the setbacks or whatever, that they're happy with what's going to happen here now. So they'd look to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor. All right, seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We're going to open questions and comments to the board. The chair recognizes Mr. Prokop. Mr. Prokop, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hammond, I appreciate the fact that you redid this and you received this, because the neighbors speak for itself. People want good homes, they want good people, and the fact that you've gotten the support from the neighborhood groups and others, I think this would be a good project. The engineers reporting, you are going to deal with them. You did.
Yep.
Are you going to address all of these items?
Yes, so I should inform the board that this project will also go in front of the Lowell Planning Board for definitive subdivision review.
Sorry, can you speak closer to the mic? Thanks.
So this project will also go in front of the Lowell Planning Board for subdivision review. There's a 4-sheet plan set that fully details all the details of the entire project that's been submitted already and will be in front of the Lowell Planning Board on the 22nd of February for that.
Yeah, so, yeah, my initial concern was the amount of variances that we're looking for, because it was a total of 5,001 square feet. But looking at the GIS, there are, houses that has a variance of square footage, so I think you took good care into planning this, and I don't have any other technical questions, because I think you will address these and in front of the planning board. So I would look in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Prokop. The chair recognizes Mr. Brier. Mr. Brier, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the petition wholeheartedly. In particular, I really appreciate your driveway design. That makes perfect sense. I think you've done it on other projects before, and it'll be a great fit. And thanks so much for working with the neighborhood and doing all the extra work to make the project fit. I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brier. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple of questions, but I echo my fellow board members' sentiments that I think the petitioner has done a great job of redesigning this proposal and gaining the support of the neighborhood, for sure, which goes a long way, I think, in my eyes at least. So the application in front of us has a number of variances, but you meet a lot of the requirements that are important as well. The side yard setbacks, you exceed what's required. You have open space requirements that are more than amply met. The front yard setback, I understand why you're doing what you're doing, because of the safety for the parking. So that setback is more of a safety concern to be granted the variance. So I can easily see why this makes a lot of sense. And you've shown a lot of restraint with the size of the structure itself, which will help, I hope, translate to a more affordable price for the new construction. And then you're mitigating stormwater on each site, which is tremendous because we need that desperately in these dense areas. And this neighborhood does have a lot of small lots that are not 7,000 square feet by a long shot, that don't have 70-foot of frontage. And just looking at what you proposed, what you provided for us, I mean, I count 10 to 15 of these tiny lots. I'm sorry, smaller lots. I don't mean that 5,000 square feet is tiny, but it certainly meets the criteria that's important in my eyes, which is the side yard setbacks and the open space. So I would just like to have a condition that we incorporate the comments from the engineering department as one of the conditions. And I'm glad to see that you're incorporating a street tree on each one of these lots.
Oh, yeah, I should have mentioned that. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes,
One of my favorites. Okay, thank you very much.
of course.
No further comments.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. The chair recognizes the vice chairman, Mr. Callahan. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the design, as always. Mr. Hammer, you always do great work on that, but the thing is, and I understand the neighborhood is in approval of this, but I'm struggling to see how the criteria is being met here, really. You got a 16,000 square foot lot. You're trying to split it to 3 when the lot sizes are 7,000 in the TSF. You could easily split this into 2. You could easily just split these lots into 2 and not even have to have any relief on these. What is the hardship that is being presented that, to us, where this meets the criteria for us to consider granting a variance.
I was asking the same question myself, Mr. Callahan. True hardship is hard to come by when you're creating the three, when you could do the two. When the lot was originally purchased, it was purchased in order to do a veterans housing facility. The client, would like to still do the veterans housing facility, obviously. And in order to back it out in terms of getting the development to work, we end up with the three for financial reasons. Now, I know that financial reasons, there's been a difference on whether a financial reason can be a reason to grant a variance, but we thought that because of the uniqueness of this project, we would normally not come in with 3 lots if we didn't have the other project in front of us going down through an appeal process to do a veterans housing facility, because that's truly what we want to do. And that the hardship would be that it's uniqueness related to that. I mean, that's essentially all I can say in terms of this petition before the Zoning
Yeah.
Board of Appeals.
No. I mean, yeah, I appreciate that. It's just, and I understand the circumstances with the veterans housing and it's presently being on appeal and that being something to consider, but I don't think that's something this board should consider. But I mean, the hardship has to be what it is. It's not just, well, we want to do this one, but it's on appeal, but here's an alternative, but we need your help. And I'm struggling with this right now, with the hardship portion of it. It's really, and even that, and even if I give you, even getting past the hardship, with the public good, I'll give you that, as far as the three houses added to the tax roll as opposed to 2 would be beneficial to the town, to the city, obviously. But then we get to the intent of zoning, and now that's another issue that we got to kind of consider too.
What I can say is that, we've been working closely with the abutters, which I think could weigh into support from the board because of that. And additionally, we need housing. We're working with DPD in order to do that as well. We haven't had any negative opinions about this development until right now, related, not that it's not warranted, but this is what we've been working towards with the abutters to garnish up all these signatures in order to do this development. And we just felt as though, because of its uniqueness, that the board could consider it for this.
Was there ever any consideration of just putting 2 instead of 3? I mean, has that ever been planned out?
There was, yes.
I mean,
it doesn't work in terms of the
And I
financial.
understand the neighborhood. I mean, there are other lots smaller in the neighborhood under 7,000, but if we approve this, these will now be, with the exception, these will be the one next door at 15 is 4K. So, but with the exception of that, these will now be the smallest lots in that neighborhood, with all 3 of those. Because I'm looking at it, I mean, you got the 15 is at 4,000. We'll put that aside for now. Next door, you got 6 at 33, 35, you got 6,000. Next door to that, 41, 40, 39, 6,000. Across the street from that, 54, 34. In the back, you got on Jean Ave, you got 6,000, 6,000, 10,000, 8,000, 6,000. I mean,
What I could add to that, sorry to interrupt you, but we do have a multitude of 2 families. So you have a lot of 2 families on small lots as well.
Yep.
And then also right directly down the street, we have a series of garden-style buildings down there. I know they were before the 2004 zoning ordinance change. But we do have a considerable amount of multifamily housing down the street.
Yeah.
So, and this, honestly, with its close proximity of the on-ramp there as well, is a little challenging in terms of its location. So it's...
understandable, but I would probably argue the on-ramp would probably be more beneficial if it was less houses than more, because for traffic for purposes of possible traffic and whatnot.
Well, we had a favorable review from the traffic engineer when we did the veterans housing
Okay.
facility, which is a more dense development. But your concerns are noted. I just felt as though this was unique enough to fit into a uniqueness category related to what we're asking for, related to where this project stands today. So,
All right. I'll stew on it a little bit, but I do have I do have some concerns about the hardship portion of this. I just don't see where there's a hardship at all. I don't know if we can meet the criteria on this, but I'm going to listen to my other fellow board members and consider it from there. So, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. The chair recognizes Mr. Hovey. Mr. Hovey, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the neighbors for coming out and the petitioner for working with the neighbors. I think the houses fit in well with the neighborhood. I totally understand why you need the front yard setback. And I think it's probably the only way to really do it. You don't want to back out onto that street. I'll be brief. I echo Member Callahan on I don't see a hardship here. You could split it into 2 lots and hit everything and need no variances. I get you're doing it for financial reasons. Unfortunately, that's not something we can really take into consideration. You know, the neighborhood would rather this than the other project. So I get the support. And again, the houses fit in beautifully with the neighborhood. I think the project is done with an eye towards detail. And, you know, if the lot was a little bit bigger and you could split it into 3 without claiming hardship, that'd be one thing. But again, we're making our own hardship and then asking for relief when if we just split this into 2, we'd meet every criteria to pass it. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate working with the neighbors. I think it's a good-looking project, but I have issues finding a hardship also. But I'll let that go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hovey. The chair recognizes Mr. Nickerson. Mr. Nickerson, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I personally, I like the layout myself. I mean, I personally live in a smaller square footage lot, and I have family that live in this neighborhood that also have a smaller lot as well. How many bedrooms are these?
The 3 bedrooms.
3 bedroom? Okay. Yeah, I don't have really many questions just listening to everybody else, but I appreciate the neighbors coming out and being in agreement and your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nickerson. Mr. Hammer, you're always very detailed when you do a project. Like my colleagues, I also appreciate you working with the neighbors and the abutters. It is a very nice looking project. I do think that what Mr. Callahan said, it merits a lot of validity in terms of the hardship. It's self-imposed. So those are my comments. Do you want to move forward with a vote and then with the condition, just to the conditions from engineering comments to do those?
And additionally, if you want to put a condition that we would withdraw the other application before the city for the veterans housing, we could do that as well.
I don't know, what's the will of the board?
I mean, I don't know. Frank, can we condition something for another board? I don't think that that's something that isn't within our purview.
I would agree.
I mean, that would obviously be your prerogative or your client's prerogative, Mr. Hammer.
So we have no problem doing that. That's the full intention is to reverse that back with this project, so that we would do that if the board was inclined to approve this project.
Understandable. Again, I don't think we have the power to condition something that says you got to withdraw from you have to stop a lawsuit or withdraw an appeal or stop something else in order for us to grant this. That just doesn't seem right. So that's my understanding. Well, that's my belief. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Villar.
I appreciate Mr. Hammer's comments. Maybe we don't have to offer it as a condition. We're probably unable to do that anyway, but the concession he's just offered will greatly benefit the neighbors who are gathered here and so fiercely fought against the prior proposal. So I look at it as just a good spirited compromise for the passage of this petition. I endorse it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Mr. Breer. Thank you, sir. Any other comments from my colleagues? Mr. McCarthy?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say that as a board member, I think it's my responsibility to try to work with the applicant as well as the neighbors to find the middle ground that allows us to have the best possible outcome on this site. And I agree that it's not easy to satisfy the requirements of a variance. But we're here tonight with 3 smaller scale residential units that would help with the housing in the city, that has the support of the entire neighborhood. And the applicant has worked directly with our city department to come up with this plan as an alternative to what was presented to the planning board regarding the veterans housing. It's not easy to find the middle ground, and I understand that conflict with meeting these requirements for variances. But that's what we have in front of us, is the middle ground. The importance of developing affordable housing in the city, I think everyone on the board recognizes. And that's what we have in front of us tonight. And I just want to state that I'm sure everyone is weighing that too. But we have the support of the city planning department and the support of in the comments, and it's supporting this. And also the neighbors are completely supporting this. I just want to make that statement. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a
Prokop,
question
good.
for Mr. Hammer. I'm sorry. Unless I'm mistaken, I saw a lot of trees on the site. Are they going to be taken down?
There's some trees there's one big tree in the back.
In the front, yeah.
Yeah, in the front, those trees will come out, but we're going to be planting new trees along the roadway.
Okay. I didn't see it in a site plan unless I'm mistaken, but
You could make it a condition that we propose a shade tree on each of the 3 lots. Thank you for noticing that, Mr. Prokop. We fully plan on planting a shade tree on each of the lots out in front of the roadway.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Yeah.
You want that as a condition, Mr. Prokop?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, any other comments by my colleagues before we move forward with the motion? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion?
3, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2024-1 for variances at 21 Christian Ave with the 2 conditions that the applicant fulfill the 10 comments by the engineering department, and that the applicant provide 1 shade tree per lot equaling 3 shade trees.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Brier. Can roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Approve with conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve of conditions.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Prokop,
Approve with conditions.
Member Hovey,
Approve.
Member Nickerson.
Approve.
All right, Ms. Hammer, you've been
Thank you
approved.
so much. Really appreciate it.
Wish you the best of luck. Thank you for coming out tonight. Good luck on your next hearing. All right, moving on to our next item on the agenda. We're going back on our schedule here. We have nothing under continued business. On the next item on the new business, we have ZBA-2023-56. Petition is a variance. The applicant is Nayan Silva. Property located at 51st Street Boulevard. The applicant wishes to install an illuminated sign for their business located at 51st Street Boulevard. The subject property is located in the Urban Mix UMU zoning district. The proposal requires special permit approval under section 6.3 for any attorney illuminated sign. It also requires a variance under section 6.3 for the wall sign and any other relief required under Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Raymond Silva. My sister Nayani, she couldn't be here today. We had a family emergency in Brazil, so she had to go out of the country. I would like to thank you, Chairman, for representing her. We would like to have an illuminated sign on 51st Street, which is our shop. We've been doing business in Lowell for a couple of years. We used to be Papa Leguas Auto Repair on 47 Aiken Avenue. And we used to be, before that, we used to be in Drake. We are trying to do our best to help the community. And I would like to ask you guys if you can have the illuminated sign, which will be on the business hours at dark, no later than 9 o'clock. So they'll have a timer from 6 to 9, and after 9, they'll be totally shut off.
Okay. Is that all you have, Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sir, we're going to open up the hearing to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? Yeah, go ahead, sir. You want to come to the lectern, just state your name and address and just let us know?
Hi, my name is Mike Craven with Bedford Realty Trust with 8-10 Reed Street. That sign's going to be facing the bedrooms of 6 tenants in that area. I mean, there's kids' rooms, and I don't think it's good for them, and I don't want to have a lot of turnover either for those apartments. In addition to our property, there's one onto the side that has another 6 units that are 6 studios that have sleeping quarters facing that sign. So I think if they had a spotlight that just shone to the front of it instead of illuminated sign, I think it would be better.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We're going to question the comments from the board now. The chair recognizes Mr. Brier. Mr. Brier, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Usually these petitions just fly right through, and I hope that it ultimately does. But there are a couple of comments that were issued to us from our planning department. The first of which I think you already addressed. These comments indicated that your site plan stated a midnight shut off. You've amended that to 9 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And then the only other question they had was, I guess this is a question for the chairman or other members of the board, just how strictly we enforce these things. Because they question the size of the sign. Now, the variance comments indicate that the building would allow for a sign of 120 square feet, and you're proposing a sign of 225 square feet. Is that accurate?
Yes.
All right. So how do you respond to those comments? Why the need for a sign almost twice the size?
Well, the sign that first when we bought the property, the total sign overall, we're at the same measure, but the ladders are bigger. So
All right. So are you familiar with these comments?
yes.
Did you give any consideration to a smaller sign?
There is consideration. We can.
All right. I'm not looking to deny this just yet. We'll hear what the other members have to say. But that could be something to consider as we go along here.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Breyer. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. First is the banner that is mentioned in one of the comments by, I think, the Economic Development Director. I don't think that exists anymore, correct?
No.
And I think what I saw today when I went to the site is that this sign is in place already?
Yes, we put in place, and I'm sorry we did it without a permit, and I would like to for forgiveness. We put the sign, we light it up. It wasn't supposed to be light up, but we put the sign to make sure it was stable, but we didn't get a permit. So after all, we got a permit, and we stayed with the sign.
Okay. The residential units that exist nearby, very nearby, will be affected by an internally illuminated sign here. I mean, I understand 9 o'clock is the hour that you're looking to shut it off at. Is there a reason you picked 9 o'clock?
Just because it looked, I mean, I had, a lot of accomplishments. I had a lot of people came in over and say, the sign was beautiful, which, I would agree would not turning the lights on. At some point, it's very bright. So I was, looking back when the sign was on, I saw that the lights are very bright, like, neighborhood, have kids, but in the summertime, 9 o'clock is, it's pretty, starting dark. But I would like to, if you guys consider to leave the sign there, and maybe not having the lights on, maybe having the 4 lights like it was before when Gubikas used to be there, just not lighting to the front, but just 3 posts lighting the sign, but the sign would not be light up.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Consider that would be, I understand the community. For if I would live there, at some point it would bother me. I would like to, if you guys consider to leave the sign, and I know it's a big sign. We went over looking now, when I first started doing it, when I first ordered that, I thought it was beautiful. Yes, I think it looked good, but at the same time, I consider the neighborhood. The lights do bother the neighborhood. So, if you guys consider me putting the lights over the top, just lighting the sign, but not having any lights on the sign, and keep that sign the way it is.
So to be clear, the application in front of us would be amended to only be here for the sign size. The externally illuminated lighting of the sign is allowed by zoning, so you wouldn't need to be here. The application would eliminate the internally illuminated piece, and you'd just be looking for a variance for size, for dimensional characteristics.
Yes.
Okay. I'm open to that, where the sign is already in place. I was shocked when I saw it. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, we're approving something and he already bought it and installed it? Okay, all right.
Sorry.
And I think that that would go a long way to helping the neighbors feel comfortable with the sign having the external illumination only, because it would not nearly be as much of a glare problem for people trying to get to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. The chair recognizes the vice chairman, Ms. Callahan. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to figure out what the dimensions of this thing really are. They're written out, but it's kind of confusing, because I mean, I see the sign, the banner sign that's out there, that's covering the whole facade. So based on what's being presented, the measurements, so the main sign that's being presented is 47 inches tall. That's 3 feet 11 inches, and that covers the 5 feet in the height of the facade.
Yep.
But then is it 80 inches wide or 30 inches wide? Because it's
80
written in, I can't really tell.
What is it? The bird?
How wide is the proposed sign going to be, the Roadrunner?
It's about 5 inches wide. You mean the letters?
Yeah, the letters. How far are the letters going?
The letters are about 2 feet, about 24 inch by 47 inch. So each one is high as 47 inch by 24,
Okay,
each letter.
okay. So it's about so it's 30 inches
Yes.
wide,
Yes, 30 inches.
so about 2 feet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Because you said the facade is 5 feet in height and 45 feet long,
Yes.
right? So we're only dealing with, as far as the lettering is concerned, the Roadrunner and the lettering is 3 feet, and then 5 inches thick, so that's, you're talking about the
Yeah, it's, the thickness is
Coming out.
5 inches coming out. Yes.
coming out, yeah. So, okay. And then next to it, you got the auto repair and towing.
Yep.
That's a foot, that's 20 inches tall, so about a foot and
Yeah, those
8
letters are
inches.
smaller.
10 inches wide, so we add that on to the two, about 3 feet. So we're talking about 5 feet.
Yes.
10 inches wide. Wait a minute. 2, 6.
Yeah, about 6 feet.
Almost close to 4 feet.
Yeah.
4.5 feet, close to that. All right. So it's not going to cover the full facade that the current banner is
No.
currently covering, right?
No.
Okay. I think that's where the confusion was,
Yes.
as far as the
Over-
economic development.
The old sign from John Gubicki, the whole board, it had a little gap on the top, so he had the whole sign, the measurement. But my confusion is the letters. Is it the measure per letter or the measure overall? The measure overall is the same. We stayed at the same measurement, but the letters are bigger.
Okay.
Which
Well, we provided this sample here, which covering the whole facade. Is that what's being proposed? It's basically covering the whole facade? Yeah. Where it's covering the whole facade?
Yeah, the whole facade. It's covering the whole.
Okay, because that's not what, that's, if you can, okay, you're covering the, you can just grab the mic so I can. So that's where this is where the confusion's lying, because I mean, with where it lies, not lying, but you got a sample here that you're saying what's being proposed is this sample that's running the whole facade, but you're providing measurements that are well below this, because there's no way this is 4.5 feet or 3.5 feet, which is what we discussed, as far as how wide it is.
Each letter, or the whole.
Oh, so when you're talking about measurements here, you're referring to each letter?
Each letter is about 3 feet by 47 inch.
Okay,
So each letter is 47 inch
all right.
by 30 inch.
Okay, that wasn't made clear, so that's why, okay, that's,
Yeah.
now I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because I was, based on what was provided here, I was going over what, these were the measurements of the whole sign.
Yeah, that's the
All the letters, the Roadrunner,
Yes.
all that.
That's
So
the
now you're saying these measurements are for each individual letter in Roadrunner.
Yeah, we wrote it, each letter is 47 by 3.
Okay.
And the overall is
That's
200
big.
and something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's big. I'll listen to my other fellow board members right now, but I think the sign should be scaled down a little bit. I understand what you're trying to do, but it's kind of big and it needs to.
It is.
We probably need to compact it a little bit and maybe work around it, but I'll listen to my other fellow board members and see what they say. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. The chair recognizes Mr. Hovey. Mr. Hovey, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. It looks like we're taking a different tact with this, going from illumination to exterior lighting, right? So the sign's already up, so in order to scale it down, you'd have to tear it down and buy all new letters, correct?
Yes.
I had this question, but if we're changing gears a little bit, it might be not even matter. You wanted to light the sign till 9 o'clock. The neighbor had issues because there's children sleeping, legitimate issues. Online, it says that the shop is open till 6 o'clock. Is that right?
7 o'clock. We're open from 8 to 7.
Okay. So when the shop's closed, why would you want the lights on?
Just because it kind of looked beautiful. I mean, a lot of people,
Right, okay.
came out and said, this sign looks different. It's different
Right,
from
but
Lowell.
most places, when they close, they also shut the lights off, right? You don't want people pulling into a place that's not open. So I think that could have been addressed, and it would have made a little bit easier on the neighborhood. But if we're going to external lighting, it doesn't really matter. I would support external lighting. The sign's already there, so, I wouldn't expect you to rip it down. I think, the external lighting takes care of a lot of the issues that the neighbors had. So I'm willing to listen to the rest of the board, but I don't have a problem with this.
Excuse me, and I think the sign looks nice even without lights. I just went by on Sunday. It was about 7 o'clock. It looked good. If I had exterior light, it would be the same. It's not my biggest problem right now is not even having the sign lights. My biggest problem is having the sign because they cost so much money.
Right.
If I can have the sign there and I can put exterior lights, that'll be fine. It'll be totally understandable.
I think that's a good compromise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hovey. The chair recognizes Mr. Nickerson. Mr. Nickerson, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I think that illuminating to the business hours at 7 o'clock would have been actually a little bit more reasonable. I'm sure the kids don't go to bed until about that time. Keeping it open until 9 might have been a little excessive if you close at 7. But if you're looking for exterior lighting, that's a different story. And again, it would be kind of costly to have it ripped down and start over. But yeah, so I think since everything's there, keeping it illuminated till 7 o'clock wouldn't be a bad idea. And then have exterior lighting on maybe till 9. But that's, I guess,
That works.
everyone else,
That if you can approve that's fine too. That's
Thank you.
right. That's a very nice idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nickerson. The chair recognizes Mr. Prokop. Mr. Prokop, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I think you've addressed the concerns, especially the comment here that we initially thought it was till midnight, which wouldn't have fly very well. But I guess in some cases it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, since you've already installed this sign. But the concern of the neighbor of the lighting, I think, is what concerns the board. And it sounds like you're willing to compromise by using, cutting the time. I'm assuming you want to keep it till 9 because it's advertising.
Yes.
For your business is why you want it, till 9. And I can understand that. Again, you've already installed it. And I think with the compromise that you're willing to do, if we put that as a condition, I'd be voting in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Prokop. Sir, I agree with my colleagues. I think you came in here in good faith. Maybe you did it because you didn't know you need to go through the permitting process, but, we're here to try to rectify this sign issue. Again, I would agree with my colleagues that, it would be probably not the best thing just to, I would like it scaled down, but I think it's a fair compromise in terms of the lighting, the external lighting. Any other comments by my colleagues before we move forward with a vote?
Mr. Chairman, a couple quick questions, because now if we're discussing the hours of illumination, I noticed that you also, it says auto repair and towing, so you offer towing as well?
Yes.
Is there any towing done after hours, or is it just
Towing, we only do at business hours.
normal business
So
hours?
only till 7.
Okay. Just because the concern obviously being if you do after hours towing and storage, obviously then lighting probably needs to be on for that. So people know where to go get their vehicle
Yes.
if they get towed.
We do more of an auto repair. Towing is just it's just to bring some of our customers. It's more like a help to customers.
Yep.
We even have our business cars that we do give free towing to the customers.
Okay.
That are loyal customers.
No, because I know the auto body shop that was there previously offered towing, but they were towing after hours and
Yes.
towing and storage after hours. So that's
Yeah.
why I figured I'd ask, because if you're doing after hours towing, that would mean the lighting needs to stay on, so that people know where they're going to get their car. So,
We only work until
but
7.
I would whatever the pleasure of the board. I don't know if we just do the normal hours of illumination like we normally do, or what. Dennis?
Mr. McCarthy, go ahead, sir.
If I could, so this is a two-part application here, one for a special permit for internal illuminated sign that we're eliminating. So by right, the applicant can illuminate the sign with an external power source. So we have no place there to limit externally illuminated signage in the city. So right now, the applicant would only be looking for the variance for the size of the wall sign. How it's lit, as far as I understand, Fran, as long as it's not internally illuminated, we have no jurisdiction over that.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
we offer hours of illumination all the time, but if it's powered by an external source, then we have no power over. Really? Oh, okay.
Because externally illuminated signs are allowed by right.
Right.
Okay.
So the lighting would just be governed by, there are general provisions in the zoning ordinance about lighting, and so that would apply here. Lighting can't directly shine into someone else's property, things like that.
Okay.
So that would become applicable here.
All right. That's a new wrinkle I wasn't aware of. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Cliano. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. All right. Any other comments from my colleagues before we move forward with a motion and a vote?
I just have one question. Do we need to take a vote on the special permit, or can we ignore that and only take a vote on the variance, Fran?
I think the applicant should just state that he'd like to withdraw that portion of the application. I'll get that in the record, and then
Okay.
you vote to accept that, and then vote to grant the variance.
Okay, so I could
On
make a
size.
motion to accept a withdrawal without prejudice for the special permit, and we'll vote on that. Okay, I think you're right. I'd like to make a motion for ZBA
Well, before we do,
2023.
are we clear from the, is the applicant clear that he's withdrawing? I mean, you're withdrawing the special permit, correct? Just want to make sure we get that on the record.
Yes, I'm clear.
You understand that, right?
I understand
Okay.
that.
All right, Dennis, sorry, just want to make sure. Thanks. Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2023-56 for a special permit at 50 First Street Boulevard to be withdrawn without prejudice.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy for the withdrawal, seconded by Mr. Hovey. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Approve withdrawal without prejudice.
Member Callahan,
Approve withdrawal of special permit without prejudice.
Member McCarthy,
Approve withdrawal without prejudice.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approve withdrawal.
Member Hovey,
Approve.
Member Nickerson.
Approve withdrawal.
All right, that's been approved. The next motion.
Three, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2023-56 for a variance at 50 First Street Boulevard to exceed the wall sign size.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy, seconded by Mr. Hovey. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Approve.
Member Callahan,
Approved.
Member McCarthy,
Approve.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approve.
Member Hovey,
Approve.
Member Nickerson.
Approve.
All right, sir, you've been approved.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck with your business.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to our next item on the agenda under new business. We have ZBA-2023-52. Petition is a variance. The applicant is Peter Richards. Property located at 159 Clark Road. Peter Richards to construct an addition to his home at 159 Clark Road. The subject property is in the suburban single-family SSF zoning district. The proposal requires variance approval from the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals under Section 5.1 for the maximum floor area ratio FAR requirements and any other relief required in the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Richards.
Peter Richards, 159 Clark Road. Any questions?
Do you want to just tell us a little about your project, sir?
We're proposing to add a bedroom, bathroom, and a small living area with a kitchenette as a living space for my wife and myself, so my daughter will then move into the home.
All right. Thank you, sir. We're going to open the hearing to the public now. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We're going to open question the comments from the board. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, just I could ask a couple of questions, but the relief is so minor, going to an FAR of 0.37 from 0.35. It seems very easy for me to see how this is acceptable for a variance. But I'm just looking at, you're actually moving out of your part of the home and letting your daughter's family live there and going to live in this almost ADU, but we're not calling it an ADU, but it's almost an ADU.
We only have the one daughter, and she's willing to take care of us as we get older. That's-
Aging in place.
well,
Oh
that's
my
what
gosh.
We would like to be able to do, yes.
What a great story. What a great story.
Thanks.
Thank you for staying in the community here and making room for a younger family in your home.
Thank you.
This is lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. The chair recognizes the vice chairman, Mr. Callahan. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, the FAR, the relief being requested is minimal. I know there was a note by staff about that in-law apartments are not allowed in the city of Lowell, and there shouldn't be required a key to access. I just want to make sure that that's
We are aware that it has to be free flowing in between the two areas.
between the two. Yep. So I see that from the plan. So I just want to make sure that that's emphasized. So that's not the case. So it's not going against what the city of Lowell's already ordered. So, again, it's minimal relief being requested for the FAR, and I think they can support this. So I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. The chair recognizes Mr. Hovey. Mr. Hovey, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I have no questions. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. The chair recognizes Mr. Nicholson. Mr. Nicholson, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either. It's a it's a great concept, you know. Not many people in this country do that anymore, so. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. The chair recognizes Mr. Prokop. Mr. Prokop, the floor is yours, sir.
I agree with my fellow board members, and I think that every parent should be so lucky to have someone that will take care of them.
Thank you.
I think mine will put me in a nursing home, so, you know.
Thank you. We are lucky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Prokop. The chair recognizes Mr. Breer. Mr. Breer, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minimal relief for maximum comfort further enhances a beautiful home. I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breer. Agree with my colleagues, sir. I think this is probably the intent of zoning, how something like this is beneficial and doesn't erode from anything detrimental to the neighborhood. And again, it's a plus for you and your family as well. Any other comments from my colleagues before we move forward with a vote? Have a motion, please.
Three, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the ZBA 2023-52 for a variance at 159 Clark Road to exceed the maximum FAR.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Prokop. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Approve.
Member Callahan,
Approved.
Member McCarthy,
Approve.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Prokop,
Approve.
Member Hovey,
Approve.
Member Nickerson.
Approved.
Been approved. Wish you the best luck.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item on the agenda. We have ZBA-2023-53. The petition is a special permit. The applicant is Splash Media East LLC, property located at 6 Industrial Ave. The applicant has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals to construct a double-sided digital LED billboard at 6 and 110 Industrial Ave, abutting the Lowell connector. The subject property is located in the General Industrial GI zoning district. The proposal requires special permit approval per section 6.3 to construct a billboard. Oh, good evening, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I start my remarks, could I approach with some handouts?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to all. For the record, my name is John Geary of Geary & Geary LLP, 32 Church Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Splash Media East LLC, and with me tonight is Mary Burns, the principal of Splash Media. We also have Brian Melissi of Haley Ward, the engineer for the project, and we have the property owner, Peter Jarvis. I just handed out a few packets here. So what I gave you were a couple of letters of support, one from on behalf of Son Santa, the other one on behalf of the Salvation Army Radioathon. That packet also had some close-ups of the billboard to give you a very good idea of what you would be looking at tonight. And then we provided the site plan showing the exact location. So as the chairman mentioned, this application involves a request for a special permit pursuant to 6.3 and 11.3 of the city zoning ordinance in order to allow for the construction of a double-sided 14-foot by 48-foot LED billboard along which would abut the outbound portion of the Lowell connector and is located to the rear of the Jarvis Volkswagen property that has an address of 110 Industrial Ave. The location of the billboard is within the general industrial zoning district. The billboard will be supported by an 80-foot single monopole structure, which is very typical of billboards that we see throughout the city. The landowner and the applicant have entered into a long-term lease allowing for the applicant to erect the billboard sign at this location. The specific location, as I said, is on the site plan that we provided. Brian will go over that in detail so you'll know exactly where it will be. But the location is essentially generally along the strip of land where there are plans to expand the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and also parallel to the outbound portion of the Lowell connector. The landowner and the city of Lowell have also entered into a conservation easement, which, among other things, contemplates that a portion of the easement area will be used for purposes of outdoor advertising, such as we are proposing tonight. Splash Media LLC, Splash Media East LLC is an outdoor advertising business which is owned by Mary Burns, a Lowell resident. Mary's company also has a billboard installed at 41 Mile Road, which is at the property better known as the Alpine Butcher along Chelmsford Street and adjacent to the Route 3 corridor. A billboard is allowed by way of a special permit from this board in the GI zone. As we all know, billboards generally provide many benefits to the community. Marketing and advertising of business is a key component to business generation. The placement of the billboard at this location will allow along the Lowell connector will allow businesses that serve and are frequented by local residents to spur economic growth. And just as important as the economic growth is the fact that the billboards allow for local nonprofits and the city of Lowell, for example, to get their community messaging out to the city residents. Mary does that as pro bono in order to serve the community. As you can imagine, that amounts to quite a bit of revenue over the course of time, quite a bit of a donation over the course of a year. With regard to the staff comments, really the only comments that require a response are comments number 4 and 5. The other comments are essentially factual. Comment number 4 suggests the board have the applicant confirm that the billboard will meet the regulations of 6.3 and not allow for flashing, moving, animation, or intermittent displays. So billboard advertising is heavily regulated both by federal law and by the Commonwealth of Mass through its general laws and Code of Massachusetts regulations. Mary, being the former executive director of the Outdoor Advertising Board in the Commonwealth, is very well versed on the regulations of outdoor advertising, and she will ensure that the board meets all of the requirements and regulations associated with outdoor advertising. If approved this evening, the next process for Mary would be to seek state approval. Comment number 5 speaks to a concern that the Economic Development Director raised when we submitted the application regarding the view shed. She inquired how that view shed would be from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail would be impacted by this billboard. As a result of that inquiry, we submitted additional material. We submitted the prototypical base structure for a billboard such as what we are proposing tonight. The land area required for this type of billboard is basically 10 by 10, 10 feet by 10 feet. It's a very small area. In addition to that, the billboard location for this specific billboard is very close to a railroad overpass and would have no impact, any negligible impact upon any view shed. And that seemed to satisfy the Economic Development Director's concerns. So at this point, I'll turn the presentation over to Brian so he can review with the board exactly where the billboard will be located.
Thank you, Councilor. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Melissi with Haley Wood, the civil engineer and surveyor for the project. I like working with Councilor Geary. It makes my job very easy, but I'm here to pretty much tell you guys I can answer some of your questions. But what we did is we put together a plan, and Councilor Geary handed those out to you. It's the colored plan. When we were first looking to put this together, we put together a survey plan, and it became very busy and very hard to read. The connector goes overhead, the rail trail goes below and underneath, and where everything was going, it was about 1 million lines. It was very hard to decipher. So what I decided to do is try to put an aerial view of it, kind of point out where the billboard was going to go, and then we tried to put a visual of what the billboard would look like. The second sheet is just a very simple view from Google Earth on the existing billboard that's behind Lowell Provision or Alpine Butcher that Councilor Geary talked about. I don't think we were in front of this board, but a couple years ago when we were permitting the Jarvis parking lot and the rail trail, working with the rail trail people, the rail trail, I would say the portion of the property that Jarvis bought, or IARR LLC, which is the actual owner of the property, has a very long, thin piece of property that the rail line used to be on. It is used as a connector now for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. It goes right under the connector. It's a fairly short, skinny piece of property. The rail trail only required 10 feet wide, and so we're outside of that. We're on the westerly side of the rail trail, or if you're looking on that plan, it's kind of plan north of the upper side of that. We're kind of tucked up towards the connector to get maximum exposure. What we also tried to show on that plan was the location of the Lowe's billboard. In case any concerns came about that, well, geez, this billboard is going to block the Lowe's billboard, and we kind of get into an argument and whatnot. And as you can see by that, they're not exactly perpendicular to the connector, but almost. And so really the only time a driver where the billboard may impact the Lowe's billboard is for a split second when you're almost due perpendicular to that. So I don't think that becomes an issue at all. Councilor Geary told you that he had submitted a prototypical foundation in the base of these types of billboards. I can go through that for the board if they would like, but typically it's a 42-inch pipe monopole, and it's set into the ground by either one or two methods. Either it's a drilled base, if the geotechnical and there's enough earth there to allow that, it's literally just drilled into the ground far enough where it can handle the loading. If during the geotechnical search out there, they'll find some unsuitables like ledge or boulders or whatnot, then a spread footing is done. And that won't be determined actually until the location has been approved, and then the geotechnical engineer will go out, do a soil boring, and be able to decide which way that goes. The other details are on that plan. Again, I'm not a structural engineer, but I could certainly speak to those if you would like. I know I was very quick, but that's the presentation. I'll be sitting right over there. If there's any questions, I'd bring it back to Councilor Geary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Brian. So I'll just close by summarizing. The applicant is a minority-owned Lowell business that will be leasing from another Lowell business. This relationship provides economic benefits to these two local businesses. In addition, the billboard will provide revenue to the city of Lowell in terms of the construction permits and the personal property taxes that it will generate over years to come. All of this can be accomplished without any negative impacts to any residential neighborhoods or to any city services. The effects of the proposed use outweigh any detrimental effects of the proposed use are outweighed by the beneficial impacts of the use, and we meet all of the criteria relative to the request for the special permit. We respectfully ask approval this evening, but happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Councilor Geary. Now we're going to open the hearing to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this petition? In opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Good evening, Ms. Belanger.
Hi, my name is Debbie Belanger. I live at 65 La Plume Avenue in Lowell, Mass. I've been a lifelong resident here in the city, and I have known Miss Burns for probably 25 years. When I used to head up the Convention and Visitors Bureau for the city of Lowell, I would constantly call Mary looking for a favor. You know, advertising money is always tight, and it's a catch-22. You need it, and you need it, but sometimes you don't have it. So I can attest to the fact that Mary was always very generous when we needed a push for a hockey game, or we needed more people to come to Winterfest or any other events that might have taken place in the city. And it's nice to have a business like that. And what I love is you have a business working with another business in the city, and it's just a win-win all the way around. So I hope you give the approval for this so she can go to the state. She does nothing but first-class work all the time. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Belanger. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We're going to open question the comments to the board now. The chair recognizes.
Can I just point out that we, as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, there were a couple of letters of support in that packet that I delivered to you for the record.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Gary. Just for the record, we did get letters of support from the Sun Santa Fund, also from Shaw's Farm.
And the Shaw's Farm is on behalf of the Salvation Army Radiothon.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilor. Now we'll know questions or comments from the board. The chair recognizes the Vice Chairman, Mr. Callahan. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this makes total sense. I mean, it's not going to be it's going to have, the impact to the public obviously is for the advertising purposes. And I know Ms. Burns I think she was before us before in other billboards as well. I think over Phoenix Ave, if I recall, years ago, with these digital boards that are only going to be beneficial to the public at large, for advertisement purposes and getting word out on events and stuff. So I would wholeheartedly support this, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. The chair recognizes Mr. Hovey. Mr. Hovey, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you folks working with the Economic Development Director and addressing our concerns. Pretty straightforward, and I'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. The chair recognizes Mr. Nicholson. Mr. Nicholson, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be in support of this as well. I think the fact that you do a lot of volunteer work for this type of situation is admirable. So I definitely have my support. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson. The chair recognizes Mr. Prokop. Mr. Prokop, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll also be voting in favor of this. I especially like the partial list of free advertisement, because you're giving a lot of businesses and nonprofits free advertisement. I think that is commendable. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prokop. The chair recognizes Mr. Breer. Mr. Breer, the floor is
No
yours, sir.
questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breer. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. As I recall, a number of years ago when I was on the board and we approved the Alpine Butcher, although I don't know if we call it Alpine Butcher, whatever that was, LLC was called, it was a condition that we made that the applicant would provide a period of time available to nonprofits to advertise. I don't recall what that condition was exactly, and I don't know if my memory serves me right that that was a condition, but I believe that was the case. And so I'd like to suggest that we have an application, have the applicant have a condition to match the time frame that we required in that original condition.
We're happy to do that, Member McCarthy.
1,200 flips a month. Terrific. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's tremendous that you provide that. And I will say, those flips per month, I notice more, unfortunately, than the other advertising because I just feel so good about the fact that you're doing that. So maybe as a condition that we could have the application will provide 1,200 flips a month to support the nonprofits of the city of Lowell. Or Greater Lowell? Is it Greater Lowell or the city of Lowell? I'm not sure. Maybe we say Greater Lowell. Okay. And then I'd like a second condition, just because we don't really have a site plan that shows this, that the 10 by 10 billboard base will be outside of the planned Bruce Freeman Trail extension. Okay.
Is that outside of it? That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be outside, so not a problem.
Terrific. Terrific. Okay. Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Again, I agree with my colleagues. Thank you, Counselor, and to your client as well. Also, on a side note, I did get a lot of communication about this petition, all positive things. So thank you, Ms. Burns, for your commitment and to the community, and always your philanthropy. It's appreciated. Any other comments by my colleagues before we move forward with a motion?
Could I just make one comment about the second condition? So could we specify outside of the delineated path, the delineated trail, as opposed to, I mean, you know, the trail is either going to be paved or some other material. And obviously the intent is to be well outside of that, but like a right-of-way for a roadway, it's sometimes expanded beyond the actual path. That makes sense?
Yeah. So if I could provide a little more context, the rail trail agreement called for a 10-foot wide rail trail that connects, down that entire piece.
Mm-hmm.
So as that condition, we can provide an exhibit for the file that will show where the monopole in that 10 by 10 would actually be, and it will be outside that 10-foot rail trail easement.
Okay, so maybe the condition could read, if I could, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. McCarthy, go ahead. sir.
That the 10 by 10 billboard base will be outside of the planned Bruce Freeman Trail 10-foot wide extension. Does that make
Perfect.
sense? Okay.
Okay, and you're amenable to the other condition, the 1,200 flips that we're
Yep.
talking about? Okay. All right, any other comments by my colleagues before we move forward with a motion and vote? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
3, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2023-53 for a special permit for 6 Industrial Ave to provide a double-sided digital LED billboard at 6 and 10 Industrial Ave with the 2 previously mentioned conditions.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Harvey. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Approve the conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve of conditions.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approve with conditions.
Member Hovey,
Approve.
Member Nickerson.
Approve with conditions.
All right, you've been approved. Wish you best of luck.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
I just wanted to clarify the condition about the flips.
1,200 flips per month to support Greater Lowell nonprofits.
Okay, that's it.
And the word's flip.
All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. We have ZBA-2023-54. Petition is a special permit. The applicant is Nick Fotopoulos. Property located at 1600 Middlesex Street. The applicant has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals to operate a used car dealership at 1600 Middlesex Street. The subject property is located in the regional retail RR zoning district. The project requires special permit approval for section 12.6 of the Lowell zoning ordinance and for any other relief required in the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Nick Fotopoulos, 1600 Middlesex Street. And I'm here to apply for a special permit.
Excuse me, can you speak up to the
I'm
mic?
here to apply for a special permit to operate a used car dealership at that location.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. If you have nothing further, we'll open up the hearing to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition. Seeing none, the portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We're going to open up questions and comments to the board. The chair recognizes Mr. Hovey. Mr. Hovey, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. It looks like you worked with Economic Development Director as far as some of the questions she had, and then she signed off on it about the parking capacity. Looking at that, I did have one question. So Samuel Street is the only entrance or exit into the property, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You have 3 customer parking spots and then 15, 5, and 17. Is this going to be used to sell the cars or just storage? And the reason I'm asking that is, how are you going to get cars that are parked along the concrete barriers, the 5 parking, or anything to the right? How are they going to get off-site?
Basically, it's going to be used for sales, and the cars fit in there, no problem.
Right, no, I get that they fit in there. The parking spots are all here, but there's no path to drive in and out. All these cars are going to kind of, besides the Samuel Street, cars that are parked along there can pull out onto Samuel Street, but if there's a car parked behind that one, we're too deep there, or where you have the 5 parking spots, how are you going to get a car from those parking spots out onto the street without moving all the rest of the cars?
Basically, there's going to be two lines of vehicles, so a car in the back can be pulled out very easily.
So the other 2 cars would have to pull out to make room for that car to come out?
Might have to move one over a little bit.
Okay. Just looking at the site plan, I don't quite see how, besides that first row of cars along Samuel Street, is going to get access to get out. It's a little confusing, maybe for me. Doesn't look like there's any driveway to get cars out. I don't have necessarily a problem. It's what you're going to do with your lot is fine with me. I just don't see the functionality of getting cars beyond that first row of cars out, especially those where the 5 parking spots are. But I appreciate you working with the Economic Development Director. I know it was used for a car lot prior.
Yes.
I grew up in the neighborhood, so I'm familiar with the area. I'll listen to the rest of the board. I don't necessarily have a problem with this, but I'll listen to the rest of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. The chair recognizes Mr. Nickerson. Mr. Nickerson, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair. So I see that it says over here too, also from the engineering, that the applicant, for parking area for the city sidewalk, either by paint or physical barrier, as in like what U-Haul did. Have you seen that letter?
Yes.
Okay. Have you addressed that at all?
Basically, what would you be looking for?
So a physical barrier from the sidewalk area. So that would be on Samuel Street. Right? Middlesex, yeah. So because you have, like he was, my colleague was saying, it's like the game of parking lot. You know, you're moving cars around and stuff like that. So I think the purpose of that is so that you're not backing out onto that street there. Is that there needs, it is kind of confusing, the layout on the 5 deep, but then you have 2 long ways. So you have 2 vertical and the rest are all horizontal. How you get the cars in the back, though, out either. So it is kind of a little confusing. I mean, I'll let everyone else have something to say, but it is kind of confusing how you would maneuver all these cars. But I'm sure you have a way. I'm just not my...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. So, yeah, that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nickerson. The chair recognizes Mr. Prokop. Mr. Prokop, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. I'm gonna borrow this. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Did you saw the comment from the transportation engineer about the curb cuts that? Let's see. So the property as is does not have a curb cut driveway onto Middlesex.
No.
Okay. Are you going to, let me see, I'm sorry. Tell us to revise site plan. Are you going to put any curb cuts in there?
We're on the front of
I'm
Middlesex.
sorry, sir. I'm going to ask you again. If you could pull the mic towards
Okay.
you, you can pull it towards you so I can hear you. Yeah.
So basically, you're saying curb cut on Middlesex Street, right in the front?
Yeah. It says here the property does not have a curb cut driveway onto Middlesex Street. All traffic accessing the property must use Samuel Street. So
The cars that are parked in the front, I don't pull them onto Middlesex Street. I back them out and move them onto Samuel Street.
okay. Just want to be sure here, based on this, your maximum amount of cars you're going to have is 15 cars?
How many?
15, and that's what it says here?
It's going to be, it has a room for like 37 cars.
37? So why did they say 15 here? Am I missing something? Oh, what am I looking at? Oh, so I apologize, I was looking at the wrong document. And the other thing that was mentioned is that you are going to be paving I'm sorry. Are you going to do any paving in there? Because from what I understand, there's a lot of gravel, and you can't park the cars on gravel.
I will be paving the rear, yes.
You will be paving the rear?
Yes.
Okay, just the rear, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Prokop. The chair recognizes Mr. Brier. Mr. Brier, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm referring to the comments provided by DPD staff. This question is for Francesca. Number 11 indicates that at your recommendation, you had asked for a revised site plan to be provided, which we have received. Has this been met with your approval?
Let me just review it once more.
So Fran,
I'm still reviewing, sorry.
we did get Ally Carter's recommendation to approve it.
Okay, yeah, I understand, but in my opinion, Ally's looking from a certain lens, like she's not looking at, for example, dimensional requirements. She's more looking from like a economic development perspective, so I'm just looking from a dimensional site plan review point of view. So I was just catching up on the comments and then comparing the
There's no
original site plan. So the original site plan's obviously very vague. This second site plan is also fairly, it indicates the purpose of each type, like of each section. So it denotes where customer parking is, but I personally, and I don't know that you've received additional comments from Peter, but my opinion is that this is not satisfactory, and that is because for a few reasons. Number one, the parking spaces are, the size of each parking space is not denoted, number one. Number two, the setbacks are not denoted. But my understanding is that, and I think this is most important, my understanding is that used car lots are required to meet all of the provisions of section 6.110, including things related to like driving lane distances and things like that for like safety reasons. And the way that this is shown, I don't think it's safe. It's necessarily safe or attractive to have 3 to 4 rows of cars from Middlesex Street. I just don't think that that's safe nor attractive. Also, the customer parking, I'm hoping there's a big curb cut there already that would allow those customers to just pull in and out, but again, unclear whether that is the case. Is there a big curb cut that allows the customers to just pull in and out? If there's not already, we really wouldn't advise a new curb cut there that's that large. Assuming each of these parking spaces is 8 feet wide, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can't do math, but that's a really large curb cut. So if that's not already there, like they would need a variance for that curb cut. Overall, I think that there needs to be more, the parking area here should read as a parking area, and we should be regulating it like a parking area, even though it is a used car lot. The way that the cars would be piled in here, to me, would look more like a junk lot on like Tanner Street, how those cars are piled in. But this is not how, like, this isn't the standard that we, like, for example, when our board enforcement agent does enforcement, she would tell someone like, this is too many cars because there's no driving lanes. So my opinion is that this isn't satisfactory for a lot of reasons, and I can take a look tomorrow and work with the staff person assigned to this to clearly identify like what's deficient in a list. But I think it's deficient mostly under 6.110. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Francesca. I would like Mr. Fotopoulos to be allowed to continue his business, but I want to also ensure that we're doing this accordingly. So I'll withhold further judgment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Breer. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask a couple of questions, but before I do, I just want to state that this is not the first time you've been in front of this board for a special permit at this location. In fact, I think this is the third time in my memory, and I've not been on the board all my life, but I know in my 12, 13 years on the board, I recall 2 other instances long ago when you came in front of the board asking for a special permit. I think the first time it lapsed, and then you came back and we granted a special permit after it lapsed. But that, to me, was well over 5 years ago. And now you're back again asking for a special permit. My point in saying that is that there seems to be a problem moving forward here. We've granted special permits, and I believe we've granted special permits with conditions in the past at this site. That being said, I agree that I think that a continuance to get a reasonable site plan is in order here. What this is a site plan that doesn't show a reasonable way of accessing these vehicles without, in my opinion, driving over the sidewalk on Middlesex Street. In order to get one vehicle in the corner closest to the U-Haul spot, you have to move 4 of the vehicles, if not 5. Anyway, I'd like to see a site plan that shows dimensions and shows accessibility for these spaces. And also, I'd like to see a site plan that shows important criteria such as sidewalks, and something near and dear to my heart is landscaping. This spot is sorely in need of shade trees. We have Hadley Park there, which is lovely, but going down Middlesex Street here, we're devoid of shade trees. This is an opportunity to provide that, and in doing so, provide a buffer for the sidewalk to protect people using the sidewalk so that they're not in jeopardy of being, potentially hit by a vehicle trying to leave the parking lot. That being said, I think that a continuance is important here because I don't think the site plan is adequate at the moment for me to render a decision. But I think we should also, if we could, ask staff to provide the conditions that we may have had on the previous site plan, a special permit that we granted, just so that we could understand what we had asked for in the past. That'd be great. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. The chair recognizes the vice chairman. Mr. Callahan, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm in agreement with my fellow board members that what we have in front of us is just insufficient at this point, and we need more information and more updated plans. Certainly need to know what the proposed dimensions of parking are, not just for the the customer parking, but also for the cars that are going to be in storage. And in addition, I think there needs to be some assurances and clarification with regards to the curb cut area in the front in Middlesex, on Middlesex Street, to make sure that cars are not encroaching on the sidewalk area there. And that being, as the engineer pointed up, showing us that there'll be a physical barrier on Middlesex Street for those for that sidewalk to break off that sidewalk, or painting, like I think U-Haul next door just has lines painted to delineate the difference between their parking area and the sidewalk. So I would suggest a possible continuance of this to allow the applicant the opportunity to provide all that information. But yeah, 'cause I would not be prepared to vote on this right now, based on what's before us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Sir, I also agree with my colleagues. So we'll continue the matter, just to get an updated site plan so you can address the things that we talked about tonight in terms of the dimensions, the accessibility, sidewalk, the parking plan, the paved area, and the screening, the barricades, and the landscaping plan. Ms. Igliano, when is our next available opening on the agenda?
The next opening is, there is actually an opening on the 26th, which is the next meeting, and then there is an opening on March 11th as well. But where the applicant will need to confer with staff, it might be best to do 2 meetings out, if they're agreeable to that. There is technically space on the next one, but I think it might, between the conversations with staff and working with the engineer, it will likely take longer than 2 weeks, I would think.
All right, so March 11th is the next hearing for this petition. Mr. Fotopoulos, do you have any comments there?
No, all set.
Okay. All right, any other comments by my colleagues before we move forward with a motion? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2023-54 for a special permit at 1600 Middlesex Street to be continued to March 11th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Hovey. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Approve continues to March 11th.
Member Callahan,
Approve continuance to March 11th, 2024.
Member McCarthy,
Approve continuance to March 11th.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approve continuance to March 11, 2024.
Member Hovey,
Approve.
Member Nickerson,
Approve continuance.
All right, the matter has been continued to March 11th. Sir, we'll see you at March 11th, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you and have a good evening, sir. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have other business. We have minutes for approval for January 22nd, 2024. Any comments, edits, revisions to the minutes from my colleagues? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2024.
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Procope. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. The ayes are unanimous. That's been approved. Any other comments with my colleagues before we move forward with a motion to adjourn?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to advise the chair that I will not be in attendance at our next meeting.
Noted, February 26th. Thank you for that, Mr. Briere. Any other comments? Mr. McCarthy, yes, sir.
I would just like to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day for those that are celebrating.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy, for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Procope, yes, sir.
I'd just like to correct that it was Mr. Hovey who seconded the minutes and not Mr. Prokop.
All right, so we'll just strike that just for the minutes for approval. Motion, Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Hovey. All right, thank you, Mr. Procope. Any other comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy to adjourn, second by the Vice Chairman, Mr. Callahan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night, folks.